new season, new team. That's what it is, and everything that's in the past is in the past. For me, I've had a chance to, have 2 seasons to compare, to learn from, and to build, right? So, we're building this program. When I took this over, rules have changed, things are different. So, on the fly, we're trying to build it back to where it needs to be, and I think, that this year's roster is a accumulation of that, right? We're excited. We had a really hard summer. The guys responded, so we're excited about going forward. We wanted to address a couple of things. We wanted to get bigger in certain positions. We want to be more versatile. So to answer your question, we look to really compete on every possession this year on the defensive end, and then offensively looking to move the ball and share the ball, and just play with a lot of passion and joy. We're excited. This group has really put the work in this summer. They responded, so we're looking forward to the season. Well, you got to go play people, right? That's the main thing. You cannot, you got to try to give your team as many quality opponents, quad 1, quad 2 opportunities as possible before you get into conference, and balancing that obviously with some wins, right? So, I thought, the new era challenge, the Players Era Challenge gave us that. We're going to play 2 quad 1s no matter what. That's not going to change with those 2 guys. And then, we got the SEC Challenge, bringing Tennessee here. So, those are 3. And then after that, you go out and you try to win some games and, build your team going into ACC conference. I think with this roster right here, so far, again, my first year, I thought we had that type of team with the speed, and then obviously Naheem gets hurt, and then last year the same thing with JJ and Donnie. So again, if everybody holds up, I would say, this is the team that, with no injuries, that we could, really try to get after people and get up and down and really try to play deep into my bench. I've tried that the first couple of years. It's just we've gotten hit with some injuries my first 2 years. So, this year, hopefully nothing goes wrong, and we can try to do that. You try to, especially with this year, with this year's team, especially these 2 exhibition games, we're going to try to really get a look at, different lineups because of the versatility. We can move guys around. I think this is a team, that its depth is going to be the reason why we can play at the level that we need to and compete. Every fan or any person that's familiar with Syracuse basketball, it's one of the, best programs, in the history of college basketball, and, under coach, you always had a chance. You were going to compete for championships. You were going to play tough, grit, determination, and compete for championships. And that's the standard. He set it. And, we have to get it to that on a consistent basis. He did it consistently. So, being able to do those things and compete every year, and the consistency is what we're aiming to do.